Welcome to episode 15 of the LAN Partners Podcast. I'm your host, Connor, and like always, I got Dave with me.
Hello.
And Matt.
Hey, all.
So we got episode 15 coming at you this week. First of all, before I get into our list of what we're going to do today, I want to say thank you to everyone for posting to our Facebook over the weekend. We had a lot of fun looking at all the games. Some of our listeners were posting like NWO Revenge, Metal Gear Solid, a lot of Metal Gear Solid. So we really appreciate that. Started up some conversations on our Facebook page. Get it to our Facebook page and check that out. There's a lot of good stuff on there. Original PS1 games, some Nintendo 64 games. So that was a lot of fun. Thank you for that. So today we will be going around the horn talking about what games we're currently playing. We have a group review of Tomb Raider, the 2013 release from PS4. So basically the relaunch of Tomb Raider. We'll get into that later. Our discussion for today is what's the point of replaying games? We'll get into that a little bit. Couple news stories. And our list is top 3 villains from video games. Not boss fights, villains. And we'll be a little bit clear about that when we get to that. So who we are is that we're just 3 guys who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies who just love to game. What makes this podcast different is that we will, of course, talk about new games, but we will also talk about games that came out 2 or 3 years ago as if they were new. We just want to share our experiences playing these games in case you're in the same spot as us where your gaming time is limited. Please download the podcast by Apple app, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users, or go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Thursday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook, send us an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or leave a comment. Check out our LAN Partner Twitch page if you want to get some gameplay videos of everything we talk about, like throughout reviews. And with that being said, we're recording on a Tuesday night this week. We will most likely be dropping our episodes to Wednesdays. Yeah, the people over at the Podcast by Apple app kind of contacted us and were like, you know what, you guys would be a stronger performance on Wednesday. So we're like, you know what, we'll do it for the network, guys. We'll make the change for the network. So you know that's what they wanted. So we're gonna do it for the network. So let's go ahead and yeah, that's exactly it. So let's go ahead and talk about our Around the Horn. Dave, how about you start us off with what you are currently playing?
Well, I'm currently still playing The Witcher 3. I am really, really close to finishing. I've put in an obscene amount of hours into this game. What I once thought was like 10 hours actually turned out to be 30 and so on. So I would give you a number, but it's probably very low compared to what it actually is. And then I've also been playing a lot of sports games. My buddies and I got back into our 2K17 leagues full force for the exciting launches of Madden 18 and NBA Live 18 and NBA 2K18. And I just finished suffering a heartbreaking loss to Dirk Nowitzki and the Mavericks in the NBA Finals. So my buddy Mike, congratulations on being our league champion for the time being. But if you want to check that out, maybe I'll be posting it on Twitter pretty soon. Connor's been kind of forcing my hand to do that. So definitely be streaming future stuff, though. And that goes right to the LAN Partners page. But NBA, going to be playing Madden soon. Currently playing Witcher. My wife and I were playing a little bit of Overcooked because that came out for the Switch.
Oh, great game.
And I think that's it.
How many leagues do you guys actually play when you do NBA? Because you have like a Legends League, you have a You Pick My Team League, so I don't win. You have a Draft League. How many leagues are you guys actually playing? Because I'm very confused.
So we have 3 simultaneous leagues going on at once. There's the main league, which is the one I just lost. Of course, the only one I wanted to win is the one I lost. And then
that's not a draft league, right? That's just
that is a non-draft. Yep, that's stock teams. What we did was we picked from the bottom 10 teams in the NBA, and we traded up, and we're allowed 2 trades and 2 free agents to kind of fix up our teams. I let my buddy pick for me, and he picked the Nets, so I did kind of a reface of the organization, traded away all of my players in exchange for Mike Conley from the Grizzlies and some supporting cast members, and took the Nets to the finals, which is a big task if you're following the NBA. And so that's that. And that's the league I needed to win. I lost in the finals in double overtime in Game 5, which is the amount of games that we go to. And then I have 2 other leagues that are side leagues that I've already won 2 championships in each. One of them is this Legends League, like you were talking about, where we got the legends from the past, and then the other one is
Michael Jordans.
Yeah, with 4 Michael Jordans. I think there's 4 or 5. Yeah, and then just a regular old fantasy draft league using current players as well.
Nice. And just to put the Witcher comment in perspective, he was always texting us saying, I think I'm about 10, 15 hours in, and it just was never adding up. I'm like, there's no way he's only 15 hours in. And then one day he looks up the hour total, and he was like up over 50. Yeah, you completely lost track of time. It was completely lost.
I was talking to you guys about it, and I was like, yeah, Matt, I've done this. And he's like, oh, wow, it sounds like you're pretty far. And I was like, wait, maybe I am pretty far. And so I looked, and I remember I told you guys the day before I think I was around 20, and it ended up being 50. And I know it's eclipsed that by quite some time now. So
that's when you know it's a good game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so moving on to me. Since our last check-in, I'm extremely into Horizon Zero Dawn right now. This game really snuck up on me. I bought it back, maybe April, May, and I bought it with Nier Automata and Yakuza 0, and that for some reason, Horizon was the game that I'm like, I'm going to put this to the side right now and wait a little bit. I'm not really feeling the whole vibe I'm getting from that game, but oh man, am I glad that I didn't wait much longer, because it's consuming my life more. Kind of like how Dave was talking about Witcher, but not to that extent where I've been playing. I played 20 minutes, and then it's really 30 hours. But it's definitely awesome. I'm really, really into it right now. I was telling Matt right before we started recording that last night I played for an hour and a half, and I didn't touch a main quest. Like, the side quests and all the extra stuff is just so good, where I'm not getting tired of it because it's all so different. It's not like, oh, I'm doing this again. It's, I put up a video on our Twitch page of Horizon Zero Dawn if you want to check it out. I did a couple side quests, and I think I attempted a main quest, but just the time amount was just so long that I didn't really get too deep into it. But yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn is amazing so far. Another game I've been playing off and on, oddly enough, has been GTA 5. I know that sometimes at the end of the day, I kind of don't want to think about anything and just chill to some GTA 5 and just play through the main mission. And, I know Dave really loves GTA, and we'll get to that another day. But GTA 5 is still a really fun game. We'll have a review of that coming up later.
Yes.
But, yeah, so I've been playing that. Matt, what have you been currently up to?
Currently, I've been playing, or I haven't been able to play a whole lot lately. Me and my fiance just got a new puppy, so I've been busy with him. But before we got him, exactly, before I got him, I was playing Last Guardian, which is the game that people were waiting, I think, about, 10 years for. It was supposed to be on PS3, I think, and then got pushed back to PS4, and then it got delayed even more. It was one of those just horrible timelines of development. So I like the game so far. Basically, if you haven't heard of it, you play as this. I don't know what kind of cultural background he has. It sounds kind of like an Indian-ish type background, and he is in these old ruins, and he comes across this kind of ancient beast that kind of looks like a dog, and it has wings on it though, and it's also kind of has like kind of a cat-like look to it as well. So it's kind of interesting beast. His name is Trico, and basically the whole game is you trying to get back to your camp, your village, and you're using him to help you get back. So you have to give him commands and tell him to follow you, or jump up there, or break this wall down, things like that. Commands aren't always working the way they should, or at least I'm not sure. Trico is very well animated. It looks like a real life animal is with you, and the animations are fantastic. So sometimes it is hard to tell if he's programmed to not listen to you on the first command or not. It's kind of a debate. Me and Connor have talked about that before, because we both read articles that people aren't really sure if it's meant to be that way or not.
It's hard to tell if it's a game malfunction or a bad mechanic, or
Right.
if they're like, hey, we made it so real that this thing doesn't respond to you.
Exactly.
You can't tell.
So it does get kind of frustrating.
My dog? Based off
He's
of
a
my
little-
dog.
Right. It's a little frustrating when you're like, come on, just jump up there. I know that's where we need to go. So yeah, I've been playing that a little bit on the side. Me and my fiance have been playing Lego City Undercover on the Switch. It's co-op, split screen. It's open world, but it's your typical Lego game. It's just good fun. And then I'll just check in real quick with Persona 5. I made it to 50 hours. I made it to the 50-hour mark. Decided to take a little break again. I'm kind of playing it where I'm going to go either dungeon to dungeon and take a break, or maybe like 10 or 15 hours and take a break. And that seems to be working out pretty well.
Yeah, so I just want to say one more thing about Horizon, because I kind of I shortchanged it. But the reason that I am so into Horizon is the amount of mystery. And Matt, you kind of reminded me of that when you were talking about Last Guardian. Is just that there's so much mystery surrounding Horizon Zero Dawn. Is I don't have any clue what happened. I don't have any clue like what year I'm in right now. It's just like, how did these machine dinosaurs get here? Who are these people? What is my character? Why is she so relevant compared to the past? And like, it's just, I keep just undigging these pieces of information.
Why am I not playing Witcher instead? All the questions.
Man, this is a cheap knockoff of Witcher.
What's going on?
No, it's better. It's, for me personally, in my own opinion, it's better than Witcher for me, based on the mechanic of the crafting and the weapon durability. There's no breaking of the weapon, so I don't have to worry about going to a blacksmith, getting it repaired. And that's huge for me. That's time management.
That's big for you.
That was huge. And, I'm not knocking Witcher or anything like that, but that's just a mechanic that I just was not getting along with at the time. So Horizon doesn't have any of that. We'll talk more about Horizon coming up later, and obviously a lot more to talk about with Witcher and everything like that. So, yeah, we've been playing a lot of good games this last month. So hopefully doesn't stop now. So let's get into Tomb Raider. And again, this is the PS4 Tomb Raider that released in 2013. So basically, it is a relaunch of the original Tomb Raider game. So it's basically Lara finding out she's becoming Tomb Raider. The Lara Croft that we all know, the double pistol. So she's not that person yet. So it was developed by Crystal Dynamics, published by Square Enix. Everyone knows who Square Enix is, very popular. So basically you start off, Laura is searching for the lost kingdom of Yamate. An accident occurs, so you land on this island, and what basically happens in this accident is your whole crew gets spread out throughout the whole island. So you're basically trying to find your crew, and an important character in that is a character named Sam, which is her friend. And she gets spread out too, so it's a lot that occurs from her finding all these characters and going through the whole island. So, Dave, how about you just tell us, what you think of Tomb Raider, your likes, and then we'll kind of just go around the room here.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, there's a crash, and I spent a long time looking for the movie star, the Professor Gilligan, and I was pleasantly surprised to find that somehow the people who also crashed on that island at some unbeknownst time crashed there with a full arsenal of SWAT team gear. So what they were doing in the middle of the ocean, I'm not really too sure. Maybe they were going to wage a war against invisible people, since the lore of the story is that people who go to that area don't come out, so maybe they were planning on waging an entire war against an alien race from another dimension. But I had a really hard time. I struggled a lot with immersing myself in a world where you're trying to convince me that these people who were abandoned on an island got there with a plethora of military-grade gear that they are charging at me head-on with, like I am some invader on their territory. Where did all these guns come from, man? Because last time I checked, I can't get through the airport without, getting a pocket knife checked on me. So what's going on with all these guns? And I don't know. A lot of immersion was broke for me in that regard. But essentially, like Connor said, the story is you're trying to find your friends. There's these, crazy people on this island. It's the same story that's in a million different, stranded games. But Tomb Raider does a nice job kind of keeping it going. Really cool visuals. I know I praised Call of Duty Infinite Warfare's visuals and action last week, and this week I'm going to praise Tomb Raider's visuals and action sets. The pieces are really nice, and yeah, I mean, that my experience with it was in a lot of ways a lot of things that prevented me from really loving it were some of the stuff that I just couldn't get past. And I know not everyone's going to have those feelings, but the arsenal of guns thing just blew my mind to a point where I was like, I have no clue what's officially going on. Maybe I missed part of the story. Maybe one of you guys can help me out, but I have no clue why they have all those guns.
Well, is the whole story of this game it's kind of like a King Kong type of thing. You know, at the beginning, you're in the airplane, and then they get into some crazy storm, like Bermuda Triangle type thing, and then, they crash on this island.
Compass goes out.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, that just happened to land on this island. And, like Dave said, it just happened to be a whole crew of people with full-on SWAT gear and hundreds of members that just crashed on this island, too. And it's just
rounds of ammo galore. Like, what happened?
Extremely hostile.
I found myself tying my eyeballs to strings so in case they fell out of my head from rolling my eyes so much throughout this whole game. And I'll get into some sequences when we talk about our dislikes. But, the graphics like you were talking about, Dave, I like that. There were a lot of great action sequences, just kind of stuff that you're like, oh, wow, that looks really cool. And this is a lot of fun. But I didn't really ever feel like, why is this even happening? What is the point of this right now? So, Matt, how do you feel about that?
I enjoyed Tomb Raider a lot. I agree with what you guys are saying in terms of the setup of the story and the setting itself and kind of the reasoning behind what's going on. But the thing I liked about the game was I think they did a good job of kind of immersing you in the fact that Lara is not this bad chick yet. She's not this crazy, adventurous action star that we're used to seeing. She gets into trouble from the get-go of the game, and you're trying to get her out of trouble. She gets hurt really bad. The game can be kind of gruesome at times in a way, with her getting into trouble and getting hurt, and I really liked that. And there's a lot of kind of survivability elements that they played in the game where you have to hunt to get food or to craft things together to make weapons or ammo, or traps, things like that to catch animals. So it was interesting. And I think a thing that they tried to do, but I don't know if people noticed it very much, is that I know when the game first came out, they wanted her to not be good at shooting on purpose. So they made it so it was hard for you to aim on purpose at the beginning of the game, because they wanted you to feel like as the story progressed, she was becoming better at doing that. Obviously, it's hard to tell because, the aiming kind of just comes down to the person playing the game, I guess. But I know that was something they went for, which I thought was a nice touch, even if people didn't really notice it or not. But just to kind of push home the fact that, okay, she's not who we think she is yet. So she's still learning. She's getting forced into this kind of lifestyle. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah. So there were a lot of things to like about this game. It was a lot of fun. Just the only thing, and we'll get into our dislikes in a second, but along with those likes, aside from those likes, the immersion, like Dave was saying, it was not there from the start. And getting into my dislikes before I get to you guys, there's a sequence in this game, and I'm going to spoil it because it's not too far into the game, and it's not anything huge. And the game came out in 2013, so if you haven't played it by now, get on it. I'm not spoiling anything.
Skip ahead in the podcast.
I'm not spoiling anything huge. There's just a moment, maybe halfway through the game, where there's an airplane, and you're like, oh, she's going to get off, and then all of a sudden, the airplane crashes, and you're like, of course that would happen. Come on. This is
cliche.
Just getting ridiculous now. Just moments like that where I just felt there it goes again.
Right, yeah.
There's just lack of creativity as far as the whole, she's in trouble, but I saw that coming from a mile away. So, Dave, what were a couple things that you didn't like? That was basically my only dislikes, was just the roll your eyes moments for me.
I got a few. I missed one of my likes was I hated the gunplay, and I'm not even if they were trying to make it where you were intentionally supposed to miss targets, that still drove me nuts, and I hated it. However, the bow and arrow was really cool, and so were the modifications to the bow and arrow. So 10 points for bow and arrow play was the best I've done in a video game. Anyway, my cons. And I talked to these guys about it before. The weapon reveal near the end of the game should have been available the whole game. I'm not sold on. I did not want to play as Lara Croft before she was awesome. I wanted awesome Lara Croft. I had no interest. You could have given me a 10-second cutscene or, minute and a half long cutscene before the Laura that I wanted to play as of her becoming that Laura, I would have been equally as happy. But you got to see this weapon reveal at the end of the game, and you get to use this weapon for what would you say, about 15 seconds, and then it's done. And you're like, oh, so this is what I've been waiting for all game, and now it's gone. Again, I was not emotionally connected or invested in any of the characters. Same bug that Infinite Warfare had. I just didn't really, guys, people were dying left and right, and I was like, oh, this is just like a role. This person was just playing a role in the game. I didn't know them personally. I didn't feel like I knew them, so who cares? And then again, some enemies are unnecessarily frustrating. Why on an island when a guy's wearing, a loincloth, does he also have 3 AK-47s, fully ammunition, and all of his friends have 3 layers of bulletproof vests with, insignia that I've never seen before in my life that would have had to been pre-printed before they even put them on? Like, I don't know, guys.
Roll your eyes.
They're rolling right now. I don't know if you can hear that on the podcast.
You could see him right now.
Oh, there goes Dave's eyes.
Big roll.
So, Matt, what was a couple things that you didn't really like about this game?
I think most of my dislikes were pretty similar to your guys. Like you said, it's just hard to get involved in that world when it just doesn't seem. It seems totally impossible for a scenario like that to be set up. I think sometimes too the game tries to kind of like open up a little bit, in terms of giving you some space to run around in and things like that. And I didn't really feel like, and that had to do with the immersion. I wasn't immersed enough to really care about like hitting every nook and cranny of it. So I kind of just kept following the little objective marker and was like, all right, let's keep this thing rolling. So those are probably my only dislikes.
There were some side tombs that you can raid, but they were 100% side quests. I don't know why you name a game Tomb Raider, but make the goal of raiding tombs a side quest.
Optional.
Aside from
Connor, I'll tell you why. It's because of their brilliant idea to make it the pre-Tomb Raider Lara Croft before she was the Tomb Raider story, which, again, not a good idea. I for one, thought that if the tombs were the only part of the game, maybe they wouldn't have annoyed me so much. But the fact that they were completely optional, after I played 1 or 2, I was like, oh, you're giving me coins to upgrade things. I am no longer going to do this.
Yeah.
And I was totally fine.
That was a big head scratcher for me. Was I found the tombs. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, it's a big puzzle. It's pretty complicated. I'm going to feel pretty good when I solve this. And then I figure out, wait, this was completely optional, and I got pretty much nothing for that. And
little experience. And then you're on your way.
Okay, that was a waste of time. Moving on. Like I don't know why you'd do that. Why make it a side quest? Make us do that kind of stuff.
Right, force it on us. Yeah.
So they should probably just rename it Tomb Raider if you feel like it, or Optional Tomb Raider.
Optional Tomb Raider.
In parentheses.
World full of optional Tomb Raider.
Yeah, so let's get into our overalls. It kind of sounds like we're knocking it, but there's just that one aspect was such a huge part of the game that it just, the immersion, the story of just, how, of course, that would happen. The side quest of the tombs. My overall... It's extremely action-packed. I could still remember a lot of sequences where you're, running over rooftops and buildings blowing up and all this stuff happening. And it was tons of fun. It was really cool. Maybe sometimes it was a little too much. You kind of just lost yourself in it. And then when it was all said and done, I'm like, why did that even happen? Why were all those buildings blowing up, And it's kind of hard to follow it sometimes. Like Dave was saying, some characters I really didn't feel the connection. It was just a placeholder for that attempt at an emotion out of the player, but not always getting that emotion. So my overall was an 8.5. I still thought it was a really great game. And just, the story was good enough to help me enjoy it and consider it a great game. And obviously it's pretty old now, so it's $25 at GameStop. Yeah. You can get it pre-owned new. Other places like Best Buy have it for $20 also, so it's definitely worth checking out in my book. And 8.5 is still a great game for the LAN Partners. So Matt, what was your overall for Tomb Raider?
I also gave Tomb Raider an 8.5. I agreed with you. I thought it was a really great game. I think something too that we kind of missed out on is this game can be pretty comparable to the Uncharted series, just in terms of gameplay, like the movement and the way the gunplay feels and things like that, and kind of the set pieces. So I want to just throw that out there for anyone who's listening who's really into the Uncharted series. It's not up there with Uncharted, I'll tell you that, but it's very comparable in terms of the gameplay. So if you are really interested in Uncharted, then I think you should definitely go check out Tomb Raider if you haven't.
So Dave, I know at first Dave, it surprised me that Dave even played this game. So before Dave gets into his overall, he had the PS4 and he had the Uncharted collection and he refused to play it, wasn't interested in that whole world, and then all of a sudden he was like, I want to play Tomb Raider. And it was very frustrating for me. I'm like, how does Tomb Raider interest you but not the better version, which is Uncharted? So Dave, please tell us your overall.
Simple answer to a simple question. History, my man. Tomb Raider has been around forever. Lara Croft is a legendary, iconic figure in gaming. I didn't even know Nathan Drake's name till you fanboys were crying his name all over the place. So, listen, I get it. Uncharted's probably a fantastic game. I totally get it. I'm playing the original Uncharted. That's Tomb Raider. I'm giving Tomb Raider an 8. And it's only because I try not to go with 0.5s because then I overthink myself and I spend 5 hours looking at my list of games I rated. So I try to keep it super simple, and I'm just going 1 through 10. I give it an 8, and I really look forward to Tomb Raider 3, the story of Lara Croft when she was a teenager, making it through school so that she could become the person who is going to become the Tomb Raider. I'm looking forward to that one. Can't wait to take the finals as Lara Croft in that game.
Optional finals. Optional
finals.
Lara Croft
finals.
Yeah.
Lara Croft finals.
They're called electives, okay? Come on, guys.
You can take your test or not.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be Bully 2.
I may not almost become the Tomb Raider in the next game.
Maybe that's Bully 2 we've been waiting for. Lara Croft.
Oh, good crossover. That'll be good.
So, so let's talk about replaying games. I know all three of us kind of have different opinion on the value of replaying games. So, Matt, why don't you start us off by talking about how you feel about the value of replaying old games or games that you just beat, and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I typically do not replay games. It's usually, and me and Connor, I'm sure Dave's been in on this conversation as well before. We've talked about, for me personally, and this is not me bragging by any sense. It's just I tend to have just a really good memory with the games that I play, and I don't know why, but I just remember certain things that maybe other people sometimes don't, like after they played a game and it's been a couple of years or something. So I've always found when I go to replay it again, I just remember everything. So it just doesn't have that same kind of hit with me that it did the first time around, and then I end up kind of losing interest in it, or just being kind of like, well, I already knew that was going to happen. So I don't know, it kind of loses its way. But there are a few games throughout my life that I've loved to always go back to, which are my favorite games, like Ocarina of Time, Final Fantasy, games like that. I just started replaying God of War 3 again, remastered on the PS4. So I think, there's certain games. Didn't you guys
replay Bully too? Didn't you guys?
Oh yeah, we played Bully a ton.
Like 8 times.
Right.
Like recently, right? Didn't it get a remaster or something?
Last spring break, I played Bully.
Yeah.
Right, sorry about that. Keep going.
No, it's okay. So there's just certain games that I'll always go back to, but yeah, in general, I typically do not like to replay games. It kind of loses. I'm more looking forward. I'm like, what's new? What's something else I can try now?
Well, back in the day, you used to replay pretty much every game 8 times. Because whenever I'd ask you, the Uncharted games, for example, I'd be like, how many times did you play Uncharted 1? I played the game 9 times. And then Uncharted 2, I played the game a couple times. Same thing with Gears of War.
Favorite game, yeah.
You replay all the Gears of War games multiple times. I just think maybe it's a little bit different for you now, but you've definitely been around to replaying some games.
My favorite series and things like that, I'll definitely replay. But yeah, when it's just a not an average game, but it could be a great game, that I just had a good time with, but I feel like I just am ready to move forward, kind of, unless it really moves me in some way.
So Dave, how do you feel about replaying games?
I mean, I've done it a lot, and I've done it for different reasons. And so when I was thinking throughout the week about why I replay games, I broke it down kind of into a list, like a little bit of a grouping system, I guess you could say. The first group of games that I replay are the ones because they're the games that I play when I'm tired and I forget details. So I was talking to Matt about how I had to replay like an hour and a half of Witcher because my eyes were half closed as I was going through it, and like a really impactful part happened, and I was playing a main quest, and I'm like, okay, so I definitely need to go back and replay that because I'm not too sure what just happened, and I know it was important. So sometimes I'll replay games because I've missed certain details, and
Sure.
I'll go back and I'll play them. Some games have different endings, and I'll go back and replay them. Like Metal Gear Solid 1 is one that I think of because that was the first game that I really, really loved that had different endings, and I had to go back and I had to finish that game. And one way you would submit when you were being interrogated, and the other way you wouldn't, and it would affect the whole ending. I know that Witcher has multiple endings. Twisted Metal, as goofy as it sounds, had the different endings for all the characters. Mortal Kombat had the different endings. Mass Effect I haven't played, but it's got different endings. So that's another group of games I would replay. I've had games that I've replayed out of pure enjoyment. I just replayed the original Dark Souls because I never ended up beating it, and I just wanted to play it. That's Legend of Zelda, by the way, for people that don't know. And The Last of Us, I plan to play again. That's out of pure enjoyment. I've got that on PS3, and I plan to play that again. And then I've already said this, I'm going to end up playing Metal Gear 5 again, even though there's not really an alternate ending to that one. I'm going to end up playing that again. Another group is achievement hunting, and that's my Left 4 Dead 2s, where I'm going to replay that game 100 times just because I want the achievements for it, and there's not too many games like that. And then finally, my last group of games I would replay are to try a different class or character. That kind of like at the beginning of the game, you pick one and it locks you in. So I did that for like Dead Island, and then Connor and I played a little bit of Borderlands, and then I played a little bit more than he did because we kind of stopped playing together. But that's a game where I could see people going back and replaying it, even though I personally didn't. But Dead Island I did, and that's because the characters they had kind of like special abilities, and it changed the way that you played the game. So that's my kind of like value in games that I replay.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of you guys on that one because I replay some games, but then there's other games where I'm like, I really like that game, but I don't want to replay that game. For example, like co-op games, Gears of War 4. Played Gears of War 4 last year. Matt, we did co-op that game completely, right? I didn't play that.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so I co-op that game with Matt. I didn't play that by myself or anything. I would maybe be tempted to play that by myself just to feel the experience of, what is it like as one player, but not happening. But I would replay it if someone else wanted to co-op it. Like, I know I've been asking Dave to co-op that game, but he wants to wait for the Xbox One X because it makes a huge difference. I know, I've talked to other people about playing Gears of War 4. I know I love co-op games, so yeah, let's play it. Other games like this year, for some reason, I really went back to a couple games. Like I said, I bought the BioShock collection, so I replayed BioShock 1. I always find, though, the second time around, like you were saying, Matt, I never really enjoy it as much the second time around. It's not that I remember every single detail or I'm like, this guy's going to say this. It's not like that or anything. But it's just like, oh, yeah, I remember that. Like, that's cool. And it's not as cool the second time. So it's kind of like it almost disappoints me more. And I'll bring this home with God of War. Like Matt was saying, we picked up God of War 3 on the PS Network. And I actually went through and finished the whole thing. It changed my opinion. I was waiting for you to bring it up. It changed my opinion on the game. When I first played this game on PS3 back when it came out, I was like, God of War 3 is the best told story action game. Like and it's still good. Like I still did really enjoy it. But the second time around, the mechanics that maybe I just ignored the first time, and the second time it was like, this is really annoying. Yeah. Like
I need to interject. I got to interject right here.
Bring
I give a little backstory on this. I got to give a little backstory on this. So I'm bringing this one home. We were talking on the site about this. I played God of War, first of all. I played number 1 and number 2 because all the God of War hype, everyone loved it. I never played it, wanted to play it. And I never played it before. I didn't have a love for this game at first like these guys did when they played it back in the day. So I played it, and I kept saying to these guys, oh, it's pretty good, but it got so tedious and so horribly repetitive, and the controls are busted, and the little trials you have to complete are annoying, and they if you fail them, which you do 1,000 times, there's load screens. And I'm complaining about all these things, and they had the complete GoldenEye effect going on, where you're remembering this game as the greatest game ever because it was actually very good at the time, probably. But yeah. I kept saying to Connor, I don't know how you did this. This is unbearable. And he's like, no, God of War, they're great games, whatever. And I said, Connor, please play this game again, because either I'm crazy or there's some stuff that nobody in our little friends group here would deal with in a video game by today's standards. And it made my heart feel happy and acknowledged and accepted when you played God of War 3. And I heard you say the same things that I was saying about God of War 1 and 2. And I was like, I feel vindicated. I'm not crazy. God of War is not an enjoyable game.
It was enjoyable, but there were sequences where I was like, oh, this is unbearable right now. Like, I probably almost rage quit about 3 times where I'm like, I can't take it anymore. Just the instant deaths and I don't want to get too much into God of War 3 right now, because that's a whole different topic. But back to replaying games, we'll talk about that another time.
No disrespect to Kratos, by the way, good character.
He's a good character, but replaying games, like I said, it's just not something that I feel like it's almost hurting the game for me personally. Like I said in our Around the Horn, I am playing GTA 5. I still love GTA 5. The missions are still a lot of fun, but it doesn't have that I can't believe I'm doing this effect right now. You know what I mean? Like that first initial, I'm hijacking this airplane, like I'm flying this giant airplane. Like, it doesn't have that effect where it's like, oh, I do remember doing that, and that's still really fun, but not like how it was. So I know a lot of people like replaying games. But the funny thing is, if you go on, PS4 or Xbox One, and you look at the trophies or achievements for, you get a trophy, you beat the game on medium or hard or whatever. If you look at those percentages, do you guys ever see percentages above 50% on those kinds of trophies or achievements?
Super low, yeah.
Yeah, people aren't even finishing these games, and it's just like, what happened,
I think, people are maybe it is a change of the times a little bit. I think we're given new things so often nowadays that I think people are just expecting the next new thing now, right around the corner, and we're always ready to just kind of move on to the next thing. I mean, we all have our kind of niches and our games that we love to go back and check out, but yeah, I feel like everyone's just kind of ready for that next game to come out and see what's new coming.
Well, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I personally, when I replay some games, I have that same feeling that Connor was describing, where it's like, oh man, I wish I had that new game feel again. I wish this mechanic surprised me. And I've kind of found myself, especially with games like DayZ and some single player games, that I'll watch people play them on Twitch, because even though I can't have those feelings of joy and surprise again, for some reason I just enjoy watching other people have those kind of revelations for the first time. So I'll end up getting on Twitch and randomly watching someone play, Pokemon Red for the first time and be like, oh, Charizard couldn't fly. This is crazy. It's just one of those things that's just he has wings. He should be able to fly. And I'm like, I had that same feeling when I had Charizard the first time. Why can't you fly, man? You've got wings. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just a real basic example, but
give him some.
Give this guy some Red Bull.
Someone give the guy some Red Bull, please.
So get onto our Facebook page. Let us know how you feel about replaying games. If you do it a lot, I don't do it. Maybe once or twice a year. I'll go back and play an old game. But so just please let us know. I got one news story. It's kind of been a slow week. I know we got a Gamescom coming up in a couple weeks. I think maybe this weekend. I'll have to check the dates, but that's coming up, so we're going to keep an eye on that and bring you some highlights from that for the next couple episodes. But one news story I do want to tell people, make our listeners aware, is that for the WWE 2K18, there is a edition called the Nuff Said Edition, where you get 2 versions of Cena, a ECW One Night Stand 2006 against RVD, and the WrestleMania 26 2010 against the Animal Batista. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because of RVD. If you want Rob Van Dam, you have to pre-order it and get this Nuff Said edition.
Come on. What's the extra cost of RVD? Tell me. What is it? What's the cost of this version?
I'm not sure what the Enough Said version. I'm sure it's an extra $10, I would guess. I'm not positive on the price.
10's not terrible. But why?
That's just
come
a guess.
on, you're
I would
gonna
guess
paywall
$10.
lock RVD. I have to pay to see the Van Terminator. Come on.
That's why I'm bringing it up, because I know there's a lot of RVD fans out there who want to play as him. But if you want to play as him, you have to get this Enough Said edition, unless they change that or there's a detail I'm missing on this. But as far as I can tell, you have to get this Enough Said edition where you get 18 Cenas and only one
18
RVD.
Cenas.
That might have sold me on the game, the RVD thing. I was for like, I'm probably just gonna stick with 2K16. But if RVD is in the game, I might have to.
Isn't WWE famous for this with their games? They always have some sort of weird pre-order bonus thing that unlocks later on, or something.
Well, you could always buy the accelerator, which is a couple bucks, and then you unlock everything, which I always did.
But is that going to give you RVD though? That's the thing. Like accelerator unlocks
probably
all
not.
characters.
Yeah,
probably not, because you have to probably have a pre-order code or something like that in order to access him. But
wasn't last year's Goldberg, right? Last year was Goldberg, so like, it wasn't a Goldberg if you pre-ordered,
Sting,
but then
I thought
it was Goldberg or something. It was a
Sting
really famous legend.
I know Sting was one of them. I'm pretty sure it was last year because he showed up at SummerSlam. And they said, if you want to play as Sting, you have to pre-order it. And it's like, come on. Like, the only guy I actually want to play as.
Well, that's the problem. They marketed it like that. But then after the game came out, I think 6 months in, they were like, okay, now you can pay $3 to play as Sting or whoever it was. So I don't like how they do that. But
it was either last year's or the year before. I'm pretty sure it was last year's where you had to pre-order to play as Sting. I'm not 100%. Maybe it was 2 years ago. It was probably 2 years ago. I think you're right. I think Goldberg's was last year. I can't remember. I don't follow WWE games a whole lot.
Yeah.
But,
Kurt Angle's a good addition, by the way.
So get out there and pre-order this Enough Said edition if you want RVD. So let's go ahead and get into our list and close out episode 15, big episode, guys, of the LAN Partners Podcast. Our list for today is top 3 villains, not boss fights. Boss fights and villains, 2 different things. Those are completely different. We'll have a separate list someday about our favorite boss fights, because there you can have an amazing boss fight, but that villain really meant nothing to you. So I always want to talk about those specific characters of villains. I'll start us off with my number 3. Actually, 2 honorable mentions real fast before we get into that. My honorable mention is the blue shell from Mario Kart. That is the biggest villain ever. And the umps in MLB The Show. They are major villains that need to be fixed. So my number 3 is Queen. Can't remember the exact pronunciation, but Queen Mira, I want to say. I think I remember it being Queen Mira from the Gears of War series. She's pretty much throughout all the games, and she's the leader of the Locust. It doesn't get any higher than her. She is the Locust Queen. So that's my number 3. Matt, what is your number 3?
My number 3, which I was just talking to Connor before the podcast, I was having a hard time deciding on my number 3. But I actually came to a decision. I'm going to go with the Joker from the Batman Arkham series of games. He is voiced by Mark Hamill. He plays Luke Skywalker, but he also does Joker voice, and it's an amazing voice. He does a really great job of playing Joker, and it's the Joker. I mean, he's one of the most amazing villains of all time.
Nice. Dave, what is your number 3?
My number 3 is Sephiroth from Final Fantasy VII. I mean, the dude was just awesome. You saw him in the first cutscene of the game when he appears for the first time, and you're like, how do I get this character to play as? Oh, he's a villain. Oh, man. And you get that feeling of, I can't wait to see this dude again. And he makes some of the most memorable moments in game cutscene history throughout that game. And just a really cool villain. Just one of the best.
Nice. So, my number 2 is Edgar Ross from Red Dead Redemption on the PS2 Rockstar game there. It's one of those villains where you're not like, oh man, I can't wait to get my hands on this guy and, get into that epic boss fight. It's just one of those villains where like, man, you are not a nice person, like you're just
not a good guy.
Yeah, like, oh my God, like, do you have any sort of moral compass at all?
All right, yeah.
He's just a bad guy, a really bad dude. He's, a completely normal person, but just a bad person. So, Matt, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is Ganon from the Legend of Zelda series. Nintendo always has those kind of repeat villains for their game series, and I think he's just one of those iconic villains that no matter how many times they kind of reiterate him into games, you're always like, we got to take Ganon down. So it always gives you that motivation to just go after him.
Dave?
My number 2 is, I'm guessing Matt's number 1. I'm going to say Bowser from Mario, and if it's not, I'll be surprised. But I know he loves him some Bowser. Bowser's, again, same explanation that Matt said for Ganon. He's the perennial villain of Mario, and he shows up in many different awesome forms ever since the first one.
All right, so I'll close it out with our top 3 villains. My number 1 is Andrew Ryan from BioShock.
Okay.
It's hard to find a top villains list out there that doesn't have this man in that list. He is probably one of those iconic villains of any video game of history that people always remember, Andrew Ryan. And if you haven't played BioShock to experience this villain, then you really have to get that BioShock collection because he's the definition of villain. So, Matt, what is your number 1? Bowser. Dave, what is your...
No, go ahead, Matt.
My number 1's Bowser.
I hope that's for real.
It is for real.
Nice.
Bowser, he's just iconic, man. You don't like...
I'm not
Bowser is that's who you think of when you think of a villain in video games. I feel like is Bowser.
I think we should kick Connor off of this podcast for not putting Bowser in his top 3.
I'm gonna host next week.
Oh, Bowser!
Matt's hosting episode 16.
Hosting
of the LAN
next
Partners,
week.
So look forward
Taking
to that.
over.
Bowser again. Oh, wait, am I playing Zelda? It's the same villain again. Oh, wait, no, it's just Bowser.
Listen to this guy.
Dave,
No respect.
please tell us what your
No
number
respect.
1 is.
All right, well,
Ganon. All right,
all,
thank you for listening this week.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said Ganon, Zelda, dude.
Ganon? Okay, no. Here's my honorable mentions because I gotta give a couple honorable mentions. You guys already touched on a few. Ganon from Zelda, Andross from Star Fox, Nemesis from Resident
he was on
Evil.
my honorable mention, Andross.
I had him on mine too.
Yep. Sniper Wolf and Liquid Snake from Metal Gear, the Crones of Crookback Bog and Aridin from Witcher 3, and the number 1, I don't know how you guys looked over this guy, arguably the biggest villain in the history of the world.
Wow.
Tom Brady in video games and in real life. The greatest villain that you could ever face in a video game is Tom Brady. He instills fear into the hearts of many. He is disliked by most. Tom Brady is the greatest villain in video games, hands down.
Cold hard killer, man.
Can't tell you're wrong.
That one's for you, Tony.
All right, so that was our top 3 villains. Again, please get on our Facebook. Tell us what you think about our list. Maybe you got a villain that we forgot. I feel like we covered a lot of villains, basically any villain from the Metal Gear series. So, there's a lot out there. So tell us if we forgot one. We'd love to hear more from our listeners, just like how we did last week over Facebook. A lot of people were posting some pictures. So please get on our Facebook. Let us know what you think. So this was episode 15 of the LAN Partners Podcast, dropping to you on a Wednesday. So enjoy listening. Hopefully it will kind of give you a midweek pickup. I know Dave and I are full swing back at school. We're both teachers, and life is not good right now, but that's okay. We'll LAN Partners got us through it. So see you next week. Thanks for listening.